Hi, my name is Juliette Selgren, and this is my podcast, The Great Antidote. This podcast has been brought to you by the Center for Growth and Opportunity at Utah State University. To learn more, visit www.thecgo.org. Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be having an interesting episode, rather short, and today my producer Ian Nemelka at the Center for Growth and Opportunity is going to be interviewing me. So Ian, if you want to, first welcome, and if you want to take it away, go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Juliette, and thank you to everyone who listens. I work behind the scenes for the most part, but I can tell you that I am as passionate about this, obviously, as the rest of you. And Juliette, I really appreciate you allowing me to help you out with this amazing podcast.
Thank you for being here. It's been the world of a difference. The amount of time I can spend preparing instead of doing the editing and the technical.
You are the brain. You are the voice. You need to be heard. Allow me to help your voice be heard. And with that, we're going to turn the tables on Juliette this week, everyone, and ask her some of the questions that she asks her guests. So first and foremost, obviously, Juliette, you know the very first question. What is the most important thing that people your age or in your generation should know that you don't?
This is a tough one. I don't know how anybody can come up with an answer because honestly, I don't know. And that might be because I'm the same age as everyone that this question is meant for. I think that something that's really important for people my age to know is that there's always hope and that there's not one path necessarily, that especially our generation has been proving that you don't have to have one career. You don't have to be a doctor for your whole life or a scientist. You can have side jobs, side interests, and pursue other forms of jobs and interests, and to not be afraid of that. Because I know for me, I've been trying to come up with one particular path, one strategy for the future and for a job or my college career path and everything. But
right.
That's not really necessary, and it's not necessarily the best thing for me or for you or anyone.
Right. Fantastic. Well, it's a very interesting time of your life. Right. I think a lot of people before you said it, or at least the people that didn't know that you were in high school when you not only started this podcast, but have been continuing with it and are just barely getting to your very first semester of college, which is I would assume, a stressful time for you.
Yeah, it's been very stressful. I don't quite know what to do with myself. I'm beginning to accept the fact that my preparedness is not possible and I just have to be prepared to be unprepared in any situation I step into, which is the most frightening thing I've almost ever experienced.
Right. Well, I guess I think that was very insightful. I mean, if there's one thing you can be, it's being adaptive, right? Trying to adapt to the changing circumstances. And I, for one, looking on from the outside, think you do that very, very well. So let's turn that question a little bit on its head. With the most important thing that people in your age or your generation should know that you don't. What is one thing you wish people knew about your generation or people your age?
Our generation, yes, many of us, not me actually, really, but many of people in my generation spend hours and hours and hours on TikTok. All of us spend hours and hours on the internet in some form, whether that's Instagram, Reddit, TikTok, whatever it is. And that is a weakness in some ways. It does produce some flaws and maybe some characteristics that are not so great, but it's a hidden power, a hidden gift that we have, I think. And this is what I've started to realize is that our generation shares everything. And that can be really bad, yes, but also all the little things that people used to keep to themselves or experiences that were big and you just don't know how to deal with it. You start to realize you're not so alone. And it just opens a channel of communication between all sorts of different people. And I think that's really going to play to our advantage in the future. So watch out. We're coming.
Absolutely. Very, very insightful. I think for sure one of the things that, I mean, even since me, and I'm not that much older than you, or at least I wouldn't think of myself as that much older than you, right? But even since then, just the sheer number of ways that we can go about communicating with one another is staggering. Whether it be, like you said, TikTok, Instagram, what have you. I think that opens up so many new channels. And obviously it's easy to see the bad, right? Because when we do see something bad, typically, hopefully it's out of the ordinary and we focus on it and we're like, ugh, that is cringy, or ugh, that is annoying. But I think you hit it on the head, right? Is that there's so much opportunity, and your generation does have this gift where it's almost a second instinct to be able to share and to utilize those communication platforms.
It really is. Honestly, I don't know what life was before it because for our generation,
Right.
that just has been life our entire lives. And we're going to be missing out on some experiences that older generations have had, sure. But we also have different perceptions from the get go because we've never known anything else.
Right.
And then if this is the starting block, if being super hyper connected and communicating with various groups of people all over the world, if that is a given, then what comes next? I don't even know what people are going to be coming up with, what innovations are going to occur. Did you hear that? My cat just like fell.
One of the many benefits that I have, Juliette, is being able to hear all of that and taking it out of the final podcast. Maybe for the sake of this episode specifically, maybe we'll just leave that noise in there just to show people, how much preparation goes into making sure that your podcast sounds great and how much preparation you go into. But speaking of communication platforms and this podcast, what has been your inspiration to keep doing this podcast or to keep doing things like this and talking to people about these things?
I would be lying if I said that it wasn't somewhat selfish. I really like learning about these things and I like talking about these things. And everything we talk about on this podcast is something that I've decided I want to look into. It's something that I want to talk about. And that extends past me, but also to things that I think need to be talked about or aren't as well understood as they could be. And it starts inside. What do I not understand? What do I want to learn?
Right.
But usually that sort of thing is shared with not only people my age, but people of all ages. And I just want the information to be out there and for people to, I don't know, hear it discussed and to be able to process it in their own way and come to their own conclusions.
Right. I think that's such a cool way to look at it because a lot of people, and this goes for podcasts especially, a lot of people have podcasts specifically because, Juliette, that they are experts on something, or they would like to think of themselves as experts on something. Whereas you come from it from the other way, which is, I mean, forgive my impudence here, but from almost a state of ignorance. And you're saying, this is what I don't know. I would love to know more. And I feel like that's what makes this podcast so unique and what helps people connect with you so much is that, like you said, many people in your generation or not in your generation feel the same way about these topics, but just don't know enough and would like to know more, but are either too afraid or too busy to ask. But in this platform, I think, and in this sort of way in this podcast that just makes it so easy to access. And I can say for myself, especially Juliette, I can tell you this, being able to listen obviously to every single episode, but going through transcripts and everything like that, I have learned so much. And I can give you a personal testimony here for your podcast that it definitely has made an impact.
That means so much. I'm very glad. And I have seen it in my own life, and you just mentioned it, and a few people have mentioned it to me, that it has changed the amount of conversations they've had and also their approach to
Yeah,
conversations about these issues and about issues they don't necessarily understand quite yet. So
absolutely.
it makes me happy.
And hey, if that isn't enough inspiration to keep doing it, then what is, right?
Yeah.
I know for me, again, personally, it's just been so much fun learning all this and getting to know you, getting to know your process, and all the connections that you're making. It's just so cool. But with that, talking about the podcast, I'm sure some, especially your more engaged fans, have noticed these last couple of weeks have gone without an episode. Now, I know at first we talked about potentially taking August off because everyone's on vacation, everyone's going to conferences, all that sort of thing. But I'm going to combine sort of these next few questions for you. And again, feel free to be as, explicit or not as you'd like. But I think your fans would like to know what's been going on in your life right now. And I mean, if this is the end of season 2, what is this show over? What's going on in your life?
The show is not over. I'm going to be pretty explicit, I guess. We initially came at August off with the idea that, a lot of people are on vacation. In Europe, August is the month that you get off every year. You get an
Mm-hmm.
entire month off, not very much like America. But even with that, Congress is out usually August. So it just made sense to not
Mm-hmm.
have it with August. Plus, I'm starting at the University of Virginia tomorrow, which is
Congratulations.
very well. I mean, by the time this goes out, I will be there, which is, I can't believe I'm here now.
Yes.
But so then I was thinking about it, and I realized that it would be difficult before getting there to know how the podcast would continue or what would be happening. And
Mm-hmm.
then at the same time, while I was thinking about the future of the podcast, what it's going to look like, the changes it will go through, just by my changing of locations, 2 of my grandmothers died. My 2
Right.
biological grandmothers. It was a
Right.
hit, and
Absolutely.
it it sucked because we just had to go all over the place, had to go to funerals, all that stuff. My mom had to do so much paperwork. I can't even imagine. Um, and so that was rough. And
Absolutely.
it still is rough. The family is kind of in shock still. It
Mm-hmm.
was our first summer being free from COVID, and was not it was not necessarily the most liberated experience
Right.
because we were
Right.
tied down to all these super out of our control things.
Absolutely.
So, on top of thinking about the future of the podcast, this happened. And so I had no time to plan out what the transition would be like, what time I needed off, what episodes were going to happen when I was going to record things. And so then I started thinking, well, what if I just take September off, the second month off? And then I thought about it more and more, and I have no idea how much time it's going to take me
Mm-hmm.
to adjust, to be able to then begin producing podcast episodes and content that is good, that is the same in terms of quality as the work that I've produced in the past. And I don't want to go anywhere below that standard, especially for you, all my listeners. And for me, I don't think I could do that. And work that is produced when I don't have time, don't know what I'm doing, and I'm full of all this uncertainty will not be great work. So we're going to take a break. This is the end of season 2. until we begin season 3 in 2022, and I'm so excited. I haven't yet figured out exactly what changes will happen, but it won't be exactly the same, but it will have the same effort, the same inspiration, the same love for the podcast, same general concepts, but the formatting might change a bit or something. We're not sure yet, but it is all something that I look forward to working on when I have more time and can dedicate myself more to this podcast.
Well, and I think I can speak for myself, Juliette, as well as a lot of your fans, to where I think the quality of content, the quality of guests that you bring on your show is very much appreciated. And so I think we can all appreciate the fact that you want to maintain that par of content, right? And I don't think anyone can blame you for what's happened, to you and your family these last few weeks, these last few months, as well as everything else that's been going on in your life, going to college, graduating from high school, starting several new jobs. I don't think anyone would blame you for going ahead and taking this break and getting set up. And I think it means a lot that you're even willing to admit that, because a lot of people might even stretch themselves too thin and produce, as you said, content and podcasts that aren't necessarily as good even as previous episodes. So just so you know, I don't think you should feel bad. I don't think you should feel guilt. You're doing awesome. We've all enjoyed and loved your podcast. And I think we're all better for it. And I can speak for everyone saying we look forward to season 3.
I look forward to season 3 too. I don't know. We'll see what it looks like, but I'm excited for a time when I can come back and do this at my full potential.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. So let's, unless you have anything else, Juliette, let's end off the same way that you end the most of your episodes, which is with your last question, which is, what is one thing that you believed at, and I'm going to change this up a little bit. What is one thing that you believed at one time before your podcast that you later changed your position on after your podcast, and why?
There's no one right answer ever. And I'm sure people have said this before on the podcast as an answer to this question, but there really is no one right answer. And that, to me, is a good thing, because first, that means that no one is ever entirely wrong. It also means that there's more exploring to do. We can find a compromise. We don't have to yell at each other, because there is a solution. There is a compromise that can be found. And sure, something might be more efficient. Something might be more generous, say. Who knows what you want to call it, what you want, what your values are. But you can never really be certain that you're 100% right. So you can always look back into yourself, at your past self, which I can do with this podcast, which is kind of nice. I can just re-listen to old episodes and say, wow,
Right.
I've changed.
Right.
But yeah, I see it as a hopeful thing, but also kind of scary. But the idea of being either completely right or completely wrong is also kind of terrifying. So,
Yes. Well, no, I don't know, right? I can never know. That's that's really encouraging. I think for the majority of your episodes, they end off, with shadows looming, but with a glimmer of hope. And I think you in part with your background and how you frame your questions in your episodes, Juliette, I think you help bring that glimmer of hope. Regardless as to what the issue is. You're very much not a destinationalist, meaning everything needs to be right now. You're very much more of an incrementalist. Like, the better we can get tomorrow, the better things will be the next day. And
which
I
is
think
true. That's what I think. So
yeah,
of course I think
absolutely.
it's true.
Well, and it's your podcast, so what you think is the most important. Very,
very true. It's your choice to listen to it.
That's right. Exactly right. Well, Juliette, it has been a privilege and an honor interviewing you today, as well as being your producer on the podcast. Obviously, you and I will stay in touch, but I'm sure your fans would be more than happy to hear some last words of wisdom, or some last words of inspiration from you.
Words of inspiration. You can do this. Even if you feel like you can't do it, you can, and you will. And if you can't, take a break. It's okay, because I'm taking a break, and it'll be fine. If you know you can do it, anything is possible. I sound like, what is that children's book with the blue train that was like, I can do it.
The
I
Little
can do
Engine
it.
That Could.
Yes, that one.
I think I can. I think I can. I think I can.
Yeah. If you think you can, and you will. Thank you so much, Ian, for interviewing me and for being a part of this. And also, shout out to Ian. He has started to create a show called The Elders Show, and I think it is great. I think it's so funny, and also it gives an insight into Mormons and missionaries that most people don't see in their everyday lives, especially on the East Coast or especially outside of Utah. So go check that out, because I think it's great. There's a Kickstarter. You can watch a trailer. It's hilarious. Thank you, Ian.
I promise everyone, I did not ask her to do that. Juliette, you continue to be extremely generous, extremely kind, and I am so excited for season 3. Juliette, thank you. Everyone, thank you, and we will see you very soon.
Well, that's all we have time for today. I'd like to thank my guest once again for their time and insight. I would also like to thank everyone who listens, subscribes, and shares the Great Antidote podcast. If you would like to be on the podcast, or if you have a guest in mind, please feel free to reach out to me at thegreatantidote@thecgo.org. Bye!